Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Map Time. My favorite thing to do. I love doing these maps. The Robert's Rebellion one, thank you guys for everyone who watched that and commented. Really do appreciate that you take any time out of your day at all to watch these silly little videos, but I think it's because we're all fans of this beautiful world that George R. R. Martin has created. And if you like this one, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, or if I get something wrong, please comment. Let me know. I am still learning this world. There's so much here. But I think today's topic is going to be a fun one, especially with kind of House of the Dragon raging on. We're going to talk about the Stepstones, ladies and gentlemen. Here are the Stepstones right here. These are a point of contention in Season 1 of of House of the Dragon, I should say. And actually, they're a point of contention in Season 2 and 3. They keep coming up because the pirates from the Stepstones the Triarchy as they're called, keep coming up, keep causing problems. But what are the Stepstones? Why are they there? So to give a little bit of context, about 10,000 BC, which is before conquest, the first men who lived in Essos, who lived in the giant landmass to the right here, Essos, started going across a landmass that existed called the Arm of Dorne. All of these Stepstone Islands actually were just one connective landmass, kind of like the Bering Strait. If you've ever heard about the Bering Strait, it's a landmass that essentially existed between Alaska and Russia many, many thousands of years ago that allowed early humans to essentially nomadic tribes kind of cross that and come into the Americas. So that's sort of similar to what is happening here. The first men are going from Essos. They are nomadic. They're moving. They're bringing bronze, fire, and horses to Westeros. But Westeros's indigenous peoples are the children of the forest. And with this new culture of the first men, of course, comes war and comes conflict. The first men begin cutting down the weirwood trees, and the children of the forest use a magic that's known as the Hammer of the Waters to essentially break the Arm of Dorne. So let's clear this and let's zoom back in. They use the Hammer of the Waters to essentially break up this region and turn it into all of these low-lying islands that no longer connect to Dorne. So the children of the forest essentially protecting their lands from the invaders. The only other time they've used, this is sort of a quick aside, the Hammer of the Waters was in the neck. It is said that the children used it here to create this sort of swampy area. That's why they say that the north is impenetrable by an army from the south. It's because of this region right here. And the children did it for a similar reason, which was to stop the advance of the first men from, of course, their continued wars over Westeros. And the children used it here to essentially flood this area, turn it into a low-lying marsh. Here's Greywater Watch, which is actually a castle that continuously moves inside the swamps, which is very cool. And then here's Moat Cailin, the ultimate pinch point of the north. In order to get past it, you have to go underneath the castle, like the highway goes through the castle kind of thing. So in order to do that, you then would have to take your entire army underneath this formidable fortress that is Moat Cailin, and the north would just be raining arrows on you. And on the left and on the right is continued marshy swamplands where you'd never be able to ford an entire army through it. You'd lose big parts of your supply train. Your men would be exhausted. Your horses and animals would be exhausted. Your supplies would run pretty dry. I wish they kind of emphasized that better on the map, but is what it is. Great. So the Arm of Dorne shattered, right? All right. So we then fast forward 10,000 years later, and we get to essentially the reign of Jaehaerys the First, the Conciliator, who is, considered actually to be one of the greatest kings in Westeros history. And three of these free cities form what is known as the Triarchy. There's Tyrosh, there is Lys, and there's Myr. They form the Triarchy. Why do they form the Triarchy? Well, for a couple different reasons. They knew it would be advantageous financially to have essentially a strong pirate fleet that could, force tolls on the Stepstones for any ships that wanted to go through the Stepstones. But also it was a means of survival. And the reason it was a means of survival was because they lived close enough to another free city known as Volantis. And Volantis was or at least viewed themselves as sort of the heirs apparent from Old Valyria, which is right here, the Crushed Peninsula, that is, where the Dragon Lords were from, Targaryens and all the other Dragon Lords in House Valerian. But the Volantis Free City was very war heavy, and they viewed themselves as, again, the heir apparent to Old Valyria, so they wanted to essentially conquer these free cities. So the Triarchy forms as sort of a deterrent for Volantis. Like, listen, you want to mess with us, you're messing with all of us. It's going to be very expensive, it's going to be very bloody, it's not going to be worth your time. The free cities then, the Triarchy, I should say then, is able to create its pirate fleet and start enacting tolls, and its tolls specifically are impacting the Stepstones right here. Obviously, this is where the three are strongest. They have their entire force is within this area right here, this sort of choke point between the Stepstones, Dorne, and the disputed lands. Why that's important for Westeros is because, let's just be honest. All of their ports here, you got Storm's End, which is kind of a port city, not really known for that, but you got Dragonstone, you got Driftmark and High Tide, where House Valerian is from, you got King's Landing, you got Goldtown over here. Up there, it's kind of blocked off. So whenever they want to, do trade with anyone, down at this end of the map, they have to go through the Stepstones. And the pirates are either enacting tolls or sinking your ships and stealing your plunder. So that's what leads to essentially the Battle of the Stepstones in House of the Dragon. Corlys Velaryon, who is from High Tide and Driftmark, and Daemon Targaryen from King's Landing, who at the time is living on Dragonstone because he is exiled from King Viserys, decide to take it upon themselves, with Daemon on his dragon Caraxes and Lord Corlys Velaryon with his impressive Valyrian fleet, to go to the Stepstones and wage war on the Triarchy, which is being led by a pirate named Cragus Drahar, who is the crab feeder, who we all know from House of the Dragon. They made him have grayscale and kind of wear a weird Sons of the Harpy mask, which is odd because he is the leader of this sort of fleet of pirates. You'd think he'd have some maybe oration or sort of the skills, like a leader of men type skills, but no, in the show he's just riddled with grayscale and doesn't have a line, so I don't know. I do not know. Obviously, Admiral Lohar, who we see in the Battle of the Gullet, is one of his first mates. They did not introduce the character, though, in the original battle. That's neither here nor there. But so they go down to the Stepstones to wage war, and it is a very, very long affair. And it's about a 6 years war, right, in which this is waging on. In the books, it's sort of it's hard to explain, but it's sort of almost like, oh, the Stepstones happened. This is kind of what happened. There you go. So we'll kind of use the show lore to describe the 6 year war early on, and in the books, it sort of almost sounds like it's a rout, and the Valerians and Daemon kind of crushed them. But the Valyrian fleet is very successful, and the Triarchy realizes, well, we cannot beat them at sea. So the Triarchy on the Stepstones begins to retreat into caves and make it a land battle on all these individual islands. And the reason they're doing that is it's very much guerrilla warfare. It's very, very much, making the enemy come to you. And also, they're shielded from Caraxes, Daemon's dragon, which is, of course, the biggest sort of X factor in the entire war. As we see on the show, Daemon, of course, not on his command, but the army sends word to King Viserys, who, again, they're doing this war outside of the purview of Viserys, His Grace King Viserys, Daemon's older brother. They're starting this war in the Stepstones, without his leave. Viserys then sends help. Daemon doesn't want the help, so before the help can arrive, he does a one last ditch effort to try to draw out the crab feeder. The crab feeder, of course, takes the bait, and the Stepstones are won. Daemon and Corlys Velaryon's armies are able to conquer the Stepstones and win this land over for Westeros. Now, Westeros doesn't really inhabit it. It's not something that they see as valuable land. They just don't want pirates there so that they can actively pass through and continue trade, right? That's really it. In the Stepstones, after the victory, Daemon is sort of, in the books, it's kind of like he does it to himself, is named the King of the Narrow Sea. He gets back to King's Landing to celebrate the victory. He'd been exiled for some time with his brother, King Viserys Targaryen. He hands him the crown, and he says, "There is one true king, and it is you, your grace. I am no king." And that essentially is the War of the Stepstones as we know it in House of the Dragon. They are important for shipping lanes. It's cool to see, like, you know, this isn't land being fought for, you know, some army to conquer it. This is not about pride. This is strictly about economic wealth, you know what I mean? Which I actually like. George R. R. Martin's very good about that in his novels, about sort of the economic factor of all of this. And this is what the Stepstones are all about. And one more point I should make sort of about the Triarchy from here is that they don't really go away after Daemon and Corlys's pseudo-victory. They keep coming back. In Season 2, they're resurgent. Honestly, at the end of Season 1, they're resurgent, being led by Admiral Lohar against Westeros, continuing to just be very much a thorn in their side, being advantageous, taking maybe a stepstone here or there, maybe, you know, lying in wait for a Valyrian ship to pass and then looting it, right? So that's sort of how they operate. And then let's zoom out really quick just for one last note on the whole thing, just to tie it all together. Again, so you kind of get a view of it here. Let me zoom in a little bit to give you guys a bit of a better view. That should be fine. So again, the three cities that make up the Triarchy are down here. They participate in the Battle of the Gullet, right? They come up here for the Battle of the Gullet, led by Admiral Lohar, who is Craghas Drehar's first mate. They suffer defeat at the Battle of the Gullet, right? This is in Season 3 of House of the Dragon. We see this. I mean, they technically lose. They killed Prince Jacaerys Valerian, so that's a huge loss for Rhaenyra's side, but technically, the pirates do lose. They lose a lot of their men and their ships, and they retreat back to their 3 free cities. And this is sort of when it all falls apart for them. Actually, Admiral Lohar is killed in the show. They're not killed in the books. And a lot of people begin to question their leadership back at the 3 free cities, which of course begins to show cracks inside that alliance, and the Triarchy eventually splits apart due to that internal strife, and they start warring with each other. So, unlike in the show where Admiral Lohar is killed and they're just kind of routed and we don't see them at the end of Season 3, except for doing some skirmishes in sort of this part of Westeros here, the truth is, in the books, they retreat back to their cities, and the Triarchy disbands due to some internal strife. So that's sort of how their end comes to pass. This is an evergreen video, but I'll be honest, this is being released right before the finale of House of the Dragon Season 3, so we're very excited. This is definitely a throwback, maybe a few years too late, but I just got into the map times, and I hope you guys like this one too. Please comment suggestions for other map times. Please let me know if this one stunk. I don't care. I am very open to suggestions and to criticism. If I got anything wrong, let me know that too. Again, it helps me sharpen my my research for the next one. And thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you spending any amount of time watching this. And look for a new episode of Deep Thrones Pod Monday on all podcast apps and YouTube, because we're going to be covering the finale, or the vinale, if you ask me, of House of the Dragon Season 3. Thank you guys so much.
Check out the hand, switch, truth on swoosh. Hitters don't miss. Already just added a ton of y'all to my list. Bitch, death wish, not to be messed with, tested quiz. They shooting shots.